Welcome back to How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom. Anime Review, episode number 8. This will be the 8th episode of the series, Forest Rumbling. Yeah, seriously, that is the name of the episode, Forest Rumbling. Yeah, I just want to be sure about that. Uh-huh. Yeah, in case you're curious, though, for this episode adapted from... It was the 6th chapter of book number. Okay, it's called The Forest in Labor. Yeah, this is that from chapter. This is from chapter 6 of book 1. You're thinking, okay, another episode. That's from the actual book itself. Yes. Now, like in the case of last chapter, like there is some stuff cut here. Nothing really changed here per se. Just small little bits here and there are cut. Probably for time constraints. We're seeing another explanation of magic stuff here at the start of the episode. And then we cut to road construction. Yes, road. Well, first I should bring up. Excuse me. This is the first episode of the anime that finally brings up Battleship Albert. Yes, the ship named after the former King Albert, Lucia's father, and Sotoma's future father-in-law. Yep, name a ship after him, basically explain about the whole mechanics behind it, which was really nice. And then we cut to the road construction. Oh, and by the way, they have civilian engineers along with the Forbidden Army. At least 54 people are here. That's according to Kaide, explained later on. Kaide is the site foreman. Yep, and her subordinate / childhood friend, who is also her aide de camp, is doing this work. And of course, he tries to call her by her name, like he always does. Just call me site foreman. Like, why are we doing road construction for? Because we're ordered by the king to do it. Like, we're supposed to protect the country, not basically be builders. And it seems like they're doing a pretty good job of it. I'm sure they probably get apparently. Also, after they finish up that particular task, they go into their tent where they proceed to have themselves a burger. Yes, a burger. Well, a Japanese style of burger, but it looks like a burger. And of course, Kaide comments basically how good the damn thing is. This is pretty much intact from the book. They do cut the tiny bit basically where Sultana basically requests that every time these people have a meal, take a little nap. And of course, Kaede suggests in the book, they don't have this in the anime, where suggests, if you want a nap, just sleep in my lap. Yes. Which, of course, all the guys in the tent are jealous of that in the book. In the anime, there's no prejudice at all. That would have been hilarious. I'm not subscribing to that. Yeah, I get notifications from Twitter on my laptop, and Jim Palmiani is not happy with the current governor of Florida. I'm not going to discuss it here because I don't really discuss politics, so I just pop up my notifications. Anyways, so still chatting in the anime, and then Sotoma shows up. This next moment was basically seeing how he's doing. Completely intact from the book, no really change here. And he requests basically that I think his name is they cut a little bit about mentioning being the first son of the Mormir family, I believe it is. It's Herbert Magna, yes. They actually don't really bring up here. They brought up in the last episode of him being the firstborn son of the Magna family. Yeah, they actually put that in last week's episode, which that's interesting. Yes, they do. Which you're like, really? Yes, really. Yeah, and they also cut out the bit about, well, her how talking about Coyote's ears. Yeah, they actually don't have that here because him commenting about the ears and the fact she's a fox girl. Don't my guess is the reason why they cut this little bit of dialogue out, probably because I don't think it's a bit of racism per se. It's just that visually we can tell she's a fox girl, and they actually don't really have a lot of characters' inner thoughts very much in the series. Yeah, a lot of its input just displayed out visually. Don't need to hear exactly what exactly the characters are thinking. Oh yeah, and it's pointed out by Sultan he really wanted to be a guy around his age, basically to have a friendly conversation with, maybe become close friends with. And then of course they see going on an inspection. They show off the road, looks very nice, and apparently they have these special trees from the God Protect Forest. In the book, they've heard of as waiver trees. In the anime, they just simply refer to as trees from the God Protected Forest. Now, these trees form as barriers to cut down basically on animal attacks, which are perfectly fine. Not really sure why they removed the name of the tree in the anime. I thought that was kind of weird. Maybe they might include it in the dub of this episode. It's possible, but excuse me, they've only dubbed like episode 2, I think it is. Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe so. Mm-hmm. Come on, seriously. Uh, yeah, I believe that so far they've only dubbed to just episode 2. 3 was not released today. They released that last week. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, like in the book, Aisha does explain the purpose of the actual trees, which I do appreciate they keep in because, well, after on the book, she basically was one explaining she's from that particular forest, so she's the best one to explain it. And my guess is that they probably had to, either because it made sense, or the fact that the writer of the book insisted on it. That's my personal guess. Her dialogue about the trees is spot on from the book. And of course, they explain about the street lamps, which apparently some of the ones they have in the city, they have like light moss in it. So basically, light up the road, which that looks great. That's fantastic. And then we get a messenger, a hawk messenger, goes to Aisha, and she gets informed that, well, that there's been a landslide. Now, in the book, she said this happened the witching hour, which Sotoma figures out, though, that it's been a half a day. And in the anime, they said that it was actually just the night before. So they race out there via the horseback, the animals they use to transport the actual supplies to the road. And they get there. And they do trim down the scene a little bit when they meet Aisha's father. Yes, I'm not really sure exactly why they had to trim down this scene. And the book basically is a little more dialogue here than it's shown here. It's like, in the anime, it's just play introduction, point out the area, get things going, stuff like that. In the book, there's a little bit more here, per se. A little bit more dialogue. I think this is kind of dumb. The anime decided not to include this. My guess is the reason why they trimmed down this particular little scene. Time constraints. They probably were trying to get to this chapter as quickly as they could while keeping a lot of it. It seems like the first half of this episode is very well paced, but once they get to disaster thing stuff, it's a pace is a little bit fast. Not too fast per se, just a bit fast. So, and the whole thing when they're searching for everybody, that particular thing, like when Sultan was explaining it, of course, the whole thing with the 72-hour window, that's completely accurate from the book, which is very good. And of course, him still having the mice that finds certain people. Now, they do keep the bit in, basically, where he does vomit, basically, at one of his mice finding a dead body. They do change the wording a bit here, where in the book, basically, it says, it's kind of like, it's a different description, per se. excuse me, described as like a mangled body. And they do cut up basically the bit. I thought this basically would have been great to keep in the anime, but in the book itself, they actually do show that some of the people who they rescued, which were 40 missing, basically two of the people they were found were Aisha's aunt and cousin. In the anime, they cut this out for some reason. This, I think, was another mistake part of this episode. And of course, you introduce Aisha's uncle, who also happens to be her father's younger brother. His dialogue is pretty much intact, and of course, they have Sultan basically chat about the forest for a bit. And then she's left basically in the forest, probably to grieve for basically people who died. And in case you're curious, though, I read the epilogue. Aisha's not in the epilogue, but she's definitely in book 2, so don't worry about that. So you probably would think basically, oh yeah, and by the way, Sultan basically set people on various missions. Kaede got the Forbidden Army. Lucia went to the capital to get a rescue team and relief supplies. In the case of Herbert, they actually cut out the bit for him in this episode, which I thought that was kind of dumb. I don't really get why they cut stuff like that out. It just basically, like in the actual book itself, he tells them to go with Kaede to help him out. In the anime, doesn't get any much more dialogue between the two of them, which I thought was kind of weird. Yep. Of course, I should probably look back, but don't worry, she'll be back. Don't worry about that. But yeah, that's where the episode ends. It's definitely a good episode. Don't get me wrong. It is a good episode. I just thought it was kind of dumb for them to cut down certain things. Now, what about next week's episode? Well, because it looks like Sultan was going to be in this one, along with basically, well, my guess is because Renora is going to make a return to this series. First time this is a pilot episode. I think she appeared in one episode, but that was probably it. Yeah, so I think starting with next week's episode, we're going to start adapting from book 2. We're going to finish up book 1. So they're probably going to adapt the epilogue, which is not very long, actually. Yeah, because I think it's like about 10 pages. So they're probably just going to adapt starting next week. They're going to adapt the epilogue for book 1, and then go straight into book 2. Yes, it took long enough, but finally we're getting to book 2. 9 episodes in. Other anime, basically, I have seen whenever they get their second book, usually do it at a certain point, not at like after 8 episodes out of a 13 episode season. Now, in the case of, let's say, Cautious Hero, when it got to the second book of the series, it actually did it with episode 7. Some anime, other ones I've seen, basically does early as episode 5. Yes. That's normally the actual one. That or probably episode 4. Either 4 or 5 is usually the earliest I've seen, basically, when they started adapting book 2. The latest I've seen, for a long time, was Cautious Hero with episode 7 of that series. This one, by far, is really late. At exactly 9 episodes in, we finally finish up book 1 and move on to book 2 for the series. Now, the thing with book 2, I should point out, though, that despite the fact, yes, it does come right after the events of book 1. Now, in the English release, like the one I read is basically short of this one. Book 2, English release is like 250 pages. Yeah, that's how long the English release is, 250 pages. So, yeah, with basically Aisha in the cover of the second book, which second book basically is the 1 week Civil War. Yep, that is simply put basically what goes on in that book. Yes, it pretty much should probably going through, and this is my personal guess, I think that starting episode 9, they probably would have the final 5 episodes of this particular season. I think it's going to be a season, though I don't really know. It could just depend exactly if, in fact, that JC staff want to do it season. I hope they do another one. But I think they should do another one because there's still plenty of books. Yes. If you're curious, though, there are 15 books left. There's 15 books overall for the series. So you have 11 books. So here's the thing, JC staff, or people who think that, oh, there's not enough material. There's plenty of material to adapt. So don't worry about it. Yep. So yeah, that's it for Spiegel Review. Stay tuned for next view, which will be the case study of Volantis. And then case closed, and if I get time, One Piece. Okay? That's the next video. Bye.